Hey guys, my name is Ryan and welcome to Overwatch Central. I'll sum this up quickly. We're very much doom and gloom. The double barrier meta is really frustrating a lot of players. It's not fun to play with, against, or watch, and because of that people are getting very annoyed. You have all of the stuff with Season 18 breaking the game, being delayed another week, and we're also in the dark ages simply because we don't have any information from Overbuff and Omnic meta. The stats of the season have not been made public to Overbuff, so we don't know how popular certain heroes are, if they've gone up or down in popularity, and Omnic meta has sort of stopped covering what the Overwatch League teams are doing. So because of that, we don't really have much information to go off at the moment. Other than, of course, what we play in competitive and what we see in the Overwatch League. And why. It's super frustrating from both playing the game, trying to understand what the hell's going on, but also making content, obviously. However, this video is to prove that it's not doom and gloom. I actually wanted to quote this tweet from ZP as I feel it really sums up what's going on and why it's important. Prior to this weekend's matches, there were a lot of concerns, particularly from pro players, that this meta would be too shield heavy and not fun to watch. This has not been the case. This weekend has been super entertaining so far, exciting meta going into the finals. And I very much agree, these matches were quite surprising in the diverse hero picks that came out. Granted, Orisa Sigma was still the strongest tank composition, but for example, we did see a lot of Winston. We still saw a bit of Deva, and I wanted to go over 5 heroes that have really surprised me and a lot of other streamers and pros in regards to how popular they have become, most importantly going over why. I know the Overwatch League doesn't really represent our games as well, but especially when we're in a very cheesy meta of Orisa Sigma working on barriers with May, for example, learning from how the pros are trying to counter this with their hero picks is a very good thing for us in general. But I firmly believe that this meta isn't set. And these 5 heroes might be leading the way into changing this really bad double barrier meta that we're in currently. The first is Doomfist. We sort of expected May and Reaper to be the optimal DPS lineup for a lot of these teams, with reasons we've gone over so many times. May was still played, Reaper was still just as popular as before, but Doomfist has really sort of come in, shoulder barged May out the way, and now we have the sort of Talon lineup. In fact, I find it really entertaining that 4 of the heroes in this lineup on screen are Talon heroes. Orisa and Lucio are just sort of coming in for the ride, I guess. But the reason why Doomfist is played is because of those barriers. He isn't affected at all. He doesn't have to worry about projectiles hitting barriers, he is the projectile. And in fact, there's a lot of really solid synergy coming between Orisa players and the Doomfist. Taking this clip I'm shown on screen from the Watchpoint post-show, they highlight exactly how Sol and Guancho were playing this. The Orisa would halt a target into an area and the Doomfist would come in and eliminate them. This got so complex, you have Doomfists coming in trying to block another Doomfist from killing the target with their punch. It was like bumper cars. It's ridiculous to watch from a top-down position. Meanwhile, a Reaper, in the time that a Doomfist is recharging his rocket punch, teleports into the backline, tries to jump on the supports, and if they fail, they reform out. When the Reaper gets back, the Doomfist does the same thing over and over again. Sideshow had a really nice breakdown of this, but you have this really nice rotation, just avoiding fighting through barriers at all. Even Chips has said to me how strong Doomfist is right now. There's probably a lot more intricacies, but that's the bare bone explanation of what's going on right now. This is the part of the game in the meta that I love. With Doomfist being used a lot more, May being used less, there's now a chain reaction of other heroes that have been popular. What's really strong against a Doomfist and a Reaper that are close range on the ground? Pharah. Now, we actually said in our winners and losers that Pharah isn't very good right now because a Sigma could just sort of shield her out of the way. However, it seems obvious really when you think about it. If the DPS lineup is Orisa, Sigma, Reaper and Doomfist, nobody can really contest you. Even when you're running a May, she will struggle to get those headshots if you're really good at outmaneuvering her. This definitely felt that it was more related to the maps being played on. For example, we're seeing Nero on Rialto, where you have these tall buildings that you can sort of flank around. But you can see the sort of freedom that you get with this hero when the DPS lineup was Doomfist and Reaper. Especially if you can get over the enemy team. There's very little that Sigma can seemingly do there, and everybody else is just open for that coming through. That enables another hero that is both good against Doomfist and Pharah if that's the DPS lineup, that being McCree. All of the teams seemed to pick up McCree at some point just in case they needed it, and it was nice to see the sort of circle between playing Doomfist to counter barriers, playing Pharah to counter the Doomfist and Reaper's short range, playing a McCree to try and counter the Pharah and the Doomfist potentially, going back to Mei to sort of use the barriers a bit more, then to Doomfist, and you have those 4 DPS heroes constantly being switched out, mix and matching. In regards to the DPS lineup, it's probably the most flexible one that we've seen so far, with Doomfist, McCree and Pharah being 3 of the 5 heroes that really surprised me in how often they are being picked. Who are the other 2? Well, we have 1 tank and 1 support. The tank, as I mentioned earlier, is Deva. We can't really look at the Guangzhou Seoul match because Orisa Sigma was played all of the time, unless they were trying to stall a point with Wrecking Ball as an example. But going over to London versus Shanghai, which I think overall was the better match and much more entertaining with how close it was, Shanghai won 3 maps against London. They were on Hanamura, Lijiang and King's Row, all of which had some appearances from Winston and Deva, more so on Lijiang Tower. Gamsu mostly played Winston in these more divey compositions that they were running, but also picked up Wrecking Ball, so he kind of mixed and matched whatever main tank he was playing, whereas Envy was almost always following up on the Deva because there isn't really any other dive off-tank options. Winston is obviously very strong against double barriers because his lightning goes through the shields and does damage through them, meaning that in those neutral fights, on points, on objectives and around them, Winston pretty much always comes out on top, especially if you're playing a bit more patient, a bit more reserved, and not just jumping into the backline. You can control space in a really nice way that way. Wrecking Ball, much like Doomfist, isn't affected by barriers at all, so you can be an absolute nuisance and just try and tear through people as much as you possibly can. This didn't always work for Shanghai. I'm definitely not saying that this dive tank line was the answer to double barrier, but it certainly worked as you're seeing with Shanghai on screen with how they're able to break it down. But I wanted to mention Deva, especially after Chrono Dota said that he doesn't really see Deva being played more, and she was another hero that we highlighted being not very good, being a dicey pick if I remember correctly, and much like Pharah, she's been played a lot more than I considered. Orisa Sigma is still, the surefire option, but Deva, Wrecking Ball and Winston have been played a bit more, and I can definitely see teams experimenting with that tank lineup to just try and get around it, especially pairing it up with, let's say, Pharah and Doomfist in this hyper-aggressive dive. Because of all of the things that I mentioned, the support line was fairly decisive in the lineups that were ran. Moira Lucio in this more deathball-y comp fighting on the objective, Moira being really good against double barriers again, was used the majority of the time, but as you're seeing again on screen with the Lijiang gameplay, Ana Mercy was still played quite a lot. I would say that Mercy is the more surprising one out of these 2, but it does make sense when you are running Pharah that Mercy would be played alongside. We've gone over it in the past a few times, so I'll really sum it up quickly. You want to be running Moira Lucio when your team is trying to deathball, staying really close together on an objective and trying to scrap. Mercy Ana is typically used when your team is much more spread out, like this Lijiang Tower Gardens gameplay. Nobody's stood really close together, and when you have the Pharah Doomfist, you need to be quite flexible with who you can heal and where you can stand. And then for those in-betweens, you have Baptiste Zenyatta, which from what I can tell from watching these games back, wasn't played once at all, and we were sort of saying that that could become the most optimal support lineup with how flexible and versatile it is. Of course, with Doomfist being able to punch people out of certain areas, such as where you may put down an immortality field, Doomfist could just punch you out of that area, you hit a wall, you die. Zenyatta obviously isn't going to fare well against the Doomfist or Reaper that jumps on him. So Ana Mercy is a little bit more survivability, if not you have the Resurrect coming in anyway. So when the Pharah's been played a lot more, Mercy makes sense to play alongside. We've even had mix and matching between those 2 support lines. We had Mercy Moira as an example. We had Lucio Ana. So those 4 supports are really the better options right now. So the surprising thing is that Ana Mercy is still being played quite a lot, but I guess more surprising, Baptiste Zenyatta has dropped off completely. When we get stats on all of this stuff, I'll be sure to sort of share them with you, but I literally watched through both of the matches, the Shanghai-London one being about 3 hours long, to see what was played, and it was really surprising to see how these teams used Doomfist, Pharah, McCree, Deva, and Mercy a lot more than I was expecting. The focus of this video wasn't necessarily to say play these heroes, they're a lot better than you think, but more to highlight that this double barrier meta with Mei and Reaper that is really super awful to play against or to watch, that's not strictly the meta. Stuff is changing, nothing is decided just yet. Things are a lot better than you were expecting. I hope you enjoyed this video. Hopefully you're feeling a lot more positive about Overwatch and ready for some games in the beta season. Or you're waiting for Borderlands 3 like I am. Thanks for watching, take care, I'll see you next time.